Good morning, everyone. This is Chloé Chambreau, Gender Equality Director at Business in the Community. I'm joined by my colleague, Judith.
Hello, everybody.
And we are delighted to be with you this morning to run you through the Times Top 50 Employers and Gender Equality Awards process, to give you the information that you need to complete the application form and answer any questions you may have. Just to let you know that if you are experiencing any technical difficulties or if you can't see the screen, please email Florence Hughes. She's giving her email address in the question tab. You will also be able to ask your questions. We will answer the questions at the end, but please do write your questions as we're going through, so when you still have them fresh in your mind. And we will keep some time at the end for questions. We're going to try to keep this webinar to about 40 minutes long, so that we have enough time to answer your questions. So, as I said, I'm Chloé. Judith, would you like to give a quick introduction?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Judith Cherry, and I am a diversity advisor at Business in the Community, and I have been involved on and off with business in the community and diversity for about the last 17 years. We were discussing earlier, weren't we? Which is a scarily long time.
Great. So I'm really happy to talk to you today about the Times Top 50 Employers, because that's one of the most exciting times of the year for us to be reviewing your application. So they are reviewed by a team of diversity experts here at Business in the Community. And it's always really exciting to see all the things that you've been doing to promote gender equality in your organization. And also this year, we have simplified the process slightly, and we will be running you through the changes we've made. So it should be easier and faster for you to apply, and we really hope that you will, and that we will get your applications in. So just to give you a bit of background on what we're going to cover today, we are going to talk about the Times Top 50 Employers for Women and the Gender Equality Awards. Maybe for some of you it's the first time doing this application, so we'll give you some background on this. We will also run you through the sort of benefits of entering the Times Top 50, including the fact that you could be basically in a time supplement that is circulated to over 1 million people, which to me is kind of the best benefit, really, much better than any job ads you could put up. So we will also talk about filling out the application form and how you can do this, and we will give you some tips to make sure your application is as good as it can be. And we'll also run you through where to find guidance and how to enter, etc. So for those of you who don't know Business in the Community, we are the Prince's responsible business network, and we exist to build healthy communities with successful businesses at their heart. And the Gender Equality campaign is only one of 4 campaigns at BHC around workplace. So we've also got the age campaign, the race campaign, the well-being campaign, and of course the gender campaign. So really, I would say our goal is to help people realize their potential and make sure that they can, progress and in the workplace and are not held back by any barriers or challenges because of their gender, race, age, etc. We work with more than 200 employers from all sectors, which gives us a really good insights into the challenges that certain employers encounter, and also give us access to a lot of leaders, especially our leadership teams. So just to give you some examples of the work we've been doing recently with the gender campaign, last week I was doing a webinar with the Government Equality Office on gender pay gap reporting. You can find our list of events online. If you're interested in looking at how you can tackle your pay gap, you can have a look at this. We also conduct a lot of research that helps us inform our recommendations and give employers the tools that they need to create change. And one of these big research projects was Equalize, which was very much around supporting men with caring responsibilities to be more present at home so that women can progress at work and make sure that both men and women are able to realize their potential both at work and at home. And we also work very closely with government bodies to share our expertise and influence as many employers as possible. And the goal really of the gender equality campaign are around promoting transparency and removing bias, transforming workplace culture, which is probably the hardest, and providing equal opportunities to men and women. So as you can see, we don't see gender equality as just being women. It's also about how men are supported. And if you are interested in becoming a gender campaign partner, please do email Dawn Cooper, whose email address you can find on the slide. So we would really love to hear from you. In terms of what you can get access to, we do benchmark. You would have also access to diversity advisors, like what you're doing, Judith, like me.
Yeah.
And we will help you and help you address your gaps and also any kind of action plan you want to put in place and strategy. We can help with this.
And also, obviously, throughout the process of entering the Times Top 50, you can call on your diversity advisor anytime to give you some advice and support.
Absolutely, absolutely. So moving on to the different to the next slide. So business in the community, Times Top 50 Employer and the awards are two different opportunities for recognition, but we have quite, I would say, practically brought them together to simplify the process and make it easier for employers. So Business in the Community Gender Equality Awards were started in 1995, only four years actually after the campaign started. And the Times Top 50 Employers for Women have been running since 2011. So we are very closely getting to our 10th year anniversary. These are ways of recognizing organizations which really demonstrate high performance with regards to gender equality. And it's also a very good way for us to spotlight particular case study examples of organizations who've done something very innovative or different, impactful as well. And I'd like to say that this year we are really keen to get a lot more case studies on our website. So even if you are not considered for an award, we would still love to hear from you, and there will be more opportunities to showcase your work.
Yeah, and you can check out the website now for case studies from last year's winners and finalists, which might be really helpful.
Absolutely. So as I said before, we've streamlined the process into one single entry form. So when you're applying for the Times Top 50 Employers, you are also applying for the Gender Equality Awards. At least two of them automatically, the Game Changer Award and the Gender Equality Award. And there is another award, the third one, which is optional, and I will get back to this very soon. And the Times Top 50 Employers for Women list will be published on the 24th of April 2019, and this list will also include the winners of the Game Changer Award and the Gender Champion Award. And our, I would say, most comprehensive award, which is a Business Gender Equality Award, which really looks at the whole of what a business, the whole range of activity that a business is doing to address gender equality, that will be announced at the annual award celebration next summer. So that's a different announcement. So looking at the Times Top 50 for Women, this is the UK's most high-profile and well-established listing of employers who are leading the way on gender equality. We recognize employers who are making it part of their business strategy and are promoting gender equality at all levels. I mean, for me, this is one of the really exciting things that Business in the Community is doing, to also give women information as to what employers they really should be working for.
Yeah.
And I think that's really exciting every year when we hear from, the general public and women themselves saying, I've made my choice based on the Times Top 50 Employers. That's always very rewarding.
Yeah, it certainly has an impact.
Yes. So please do enter. There are many benefits to entering the gender equality, the Times Top 50 Employers for Women, and I'll run you through this. But just to talk a bit more about the Gender Equality Awards, there are three, as I said. By filling out your application for the Times Top 50, you will automatically enter two of them. the Gender Equality Award, which recognizes organizations with very high performance across the whole entry form. So these are organizations who are really making a difference across the whole piece. And last year our winner was HMRC, and it was really fantastic to see everything they were doing around, all supporting all groups of women, and they really had a really strong entry form and were very strong at the panel. So that's really, I would really encourage all employers to apply. Up to 5 finalists will be selected and invited to a judging panel. So the way it works is we will select those finalists based on the highest scoring forms, and the judging panel will take place in April or May 2019, and that's when sort of BATC backs off and lets some gender experts, external experts actually decide. So the judging panel will just facilitate it, but it's not BATC deciding on the winner. And the assessment criteria for this award will be against additional elements, so strategy, sustainability, impact, transformational change, and innovation. So talking now about the Game Changer Awards. So this is you will find in the section 3 of the entry form. You have to submit a case study, and we will run you through it in a bit more detail in a few minutes. And we will select up to 10 best practice examples. So that is really a really good chance to be recognized if you are doing something quite innovative. So, for instance, last year, Accenture won the Game Changer Award for their program on supporting men with shared parental leave policies. So they give men and women equal packages, and they did a lot of work to encourage men to take up shared parental leave. And in fact, the take-up of shared parental leave was 6 times higher than the national average. We also had Sky, who won a Game Changer Award for their Get Into Tech program, which is a program aimed at women, which is free and very easy to undertake to help them get into tech and become software engineers. So 2 very good examples of promoting gender equality, both by supporting men at home, but also tackling the fact that women tend to not be represented in tech, and tackling this sort of segregation problem. And the last award is the Gender Champion Award, which is the one that is optional. So if you don't want to fill this one out, or you don't have time, you don't have to. The other 2 will be automatically included in your Times Top 50 employer submission, but the last one, the Gender Champion Award, is optional. It is a nomination of a senior executive, and I stress the word senior. They do need to be leaders and senior in the organization, who has made a remarkable contribution to championing gender equality and also equality of opportunity in their organizations. And yeah, it can be a man, a woman, or whoever wants to.
It's a really great way of giving somebody senior in your organization who is a key influencer profile outside of the organization. So I really encourage you to think about entering that one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And up to 3 finalists will be selected and invited to a judging panel of gender equality experts taking place in March 2019. And from this panel, there will be a single winner chosen. So moving on to the next slide, why enter? I think the 1.5 million says it all.
Yeah.
So that is really, I think, a great way to showcase the work you've been doing in your organization to promote gender equality. There are many benefits to also undertaking this process. Through answering the questions, I think a lot of our members and partners, and also employers who are not partners of BATC, get a sense of where they are lacking, where they have not made enough progress. And I think just for that reason, doing it is very helpful.
Yeah, it's a great way to just audit your organization.
Absolutely.
Through gender lens.
Absolutely. It's a very good gap sort of analysis tool. Obviously, being a Times Top 50 employer company is brilliant because you get endorsement from the Prince's Responsible Business Network. You can lift up your company up as a responsible employer, And I just think it's a fantastic way of, enhancing your reputation and appealing to women and the best talent that is out there. In terms of the extra profile opportunity, obviously the winner of the Gender Equality Award, which is the one that is across the whole piece, will benefit from increased profile, and we will talk about this a bit more later, but basically through being announced at the business in the community gala dinner and awards dinner, it's always a very good way of showcasing what you're doing. So just to give you a bit more information about the print and tablet, so we've got 940,000 average daily readership on the print, and about 82,000 in the tablets, so that's just a fantastic readership of 1.5 million adults. There are more business readers than any other sort of quality daily national newspaper, and women make up 45% of the total. So really, I think I've tried my best to convince you to do apply, and yeah, we really hope that we will get even more applications this year. So Judith, would you like to run us through the next slide?
Yeah. I just want to talk a bit about the costs and the opportunities available to you through the Times Top 50. So as you can see, it's free to enter the Top 50 Employers for Women. However, following the assessments and once the highest scoring criteria have been identified in February, there will be a promotion fee of £1,250 plus VAT in order for the eligible organisations who've been chosen by us to be included in the list. Now, this is how BITC funds the supplements. We don't pass on any of the resource costs that we have involved in processing and assessing the entries, but it's a supplement with a national circulation, and it does carry a significant cost. So the promotion fee just means that we can distribute the costs fairly across the 50 organisations who benefit from the profile. Obviously, if an organisation is entered and isn't successful, then the promotion fee doesn't apply. Now, in terms of the benefits, if you're successful, these will include prominent listing in the Times Top 50 Employer for Women in the print and the tablet supplement, which are going to be published in April 2019. You also get listing as a Times Top 50 Employer for Women on the Times Appointments website and the Business in the Community Gender Equality website through the following year, so April to April. You also get 50 words in the supplement in order for you to describe what you're most proud of in relation to your gender equality work. You're also eligible to display the Top 50 Employers for Women logo for the following year. The basic promotion fee will include the internal logo licensing package. So that means you get internal intranet use, internal and external printed company reports and presentations. And finally, of course, as Chloe said, there's the opportunity to be considered for the BITC Gender Equality Award, so you can get additional profile for the coming year. And this is the award that's announced at the annual dinner celebration next summer. So to get a real sense of the profile opportunities, you can have a look at the 2018 supplement, which is now on the BITC website in the Gender Campaign section. So have a look at that and get an idea of what you can do. There are also additional profile benefits. So should you wish to maximise your profile, there are other opportunities. These can include digital advertising in the tablet edition and on the Sunday Times Appointment website. You can get an enhanced logo licensing package, which is website, social media, recruitment and advertising elements. And there are also advertising opportunities in the print supplement. So there are full details of all of this on the Times 50 logo and advertising pricing document, which you can also find on the website. So as we said, the list is going to be published in a special editorial supplement in the Times in April 2019. It's not a ranked index. The organisations will be published in alphabetical order. It's also going to appear on the Sunday Times Appointments website and obviously on the BITC Gender Equality website for the following year, so you get loads of profile. For the Business in the Community Awards, as Chloe said, this year's categories are going to be Responsible Business for Gender Equality Award, the Gender Equality Game Changer Awards, and the Gender Champion Awards. The winners of the Game Changer and the Champions will be announced in 2019 in April. And the case studies of the finalists and the winners will be featured on the website and profiled by BITC for the whole of the following year.
And also just to add, Judith, that actually we always really try to maximize the profile opportunity for our award winners, because it's just, normally they really are fantastic case studies, and it's just a brilliant way of sharing what they've done with other businesses. So I know that I always try to bring up these examples when I speak and go to talks, and just because they are so fantastic.
I mean, we're in the business of sharing best practice, and this is a fantastic way for us to do that.
Absolutely. So looking at the entry criteria, which I think you've all been waiting for, it's pretty straightforward. So any organization with a presence and activity in the UK can participate. So if you have subsidiaries, you can choose to either enter as a group, or you put forward one of your subsidiaries, but it's not possible to do both. So you have to choose one of the other. The submission should focus predominantly on activities in the UK, although we do appreciate that obviously some programs and initiatives will have a global reach, and it will be relevant to refer to this. And we have a lot of organizations who are global, applying every year, and it's never been a problem. So please just focus most of your application on the activity in the UK, because that's what we are going to be judging on. In the question 14 in the assessment, you will see that there is also something around the impact that you're having outside of your business. And here you can obviously mention what you've been doing globally, if you happen to have a global reach as well. Just a word of warning. Obviously, we reserve the right to disqualify any submission from employers who are found to be in breach of the UK equality legislation. That could be, for instance, if you are facing any unequal pay claims or things like this, which makes sense because we want our Times Top 50 listers to be respecting the legislation. So moving on to the entry process itself, I am delighted to let you know that this year we've tried to simplify the process for you. So it's going to be easier, I hope, to answer most of the questions. So we've clarified the questions. We've also reduced the number of questions. And we have made the sub-questions much more explicit. So the entry is by self-nomination via the single entry form online. And you will find a blank entry form template on our website, which you can use. And so when you go on our website, there are two main documents that you need to download: the guidance notes, so information and guidance, and the blank entry form. You don't have to download the blank entry form, but I find it very practical because it's a Word document that you can add. You can basically fill it out, and then it's much easier if you wanted to send it to other colleagues in your organization, maybe in comms or finance or wherever is best for them to contribute as well or review it. So looking at the different sections, sections 1 to 3 of the entry form are compulsory. So you will need to complete those to be accepted, for the entry to be accepted. The first section is not contributing towards your score, but is very important because it gives the assessor some context about your organization. So the assessors will not know your organization because it's completely anonymous, but obviously they will be able to know whether you are coming from the STEM sector, for instance, or construction industry, and that obviously help them better mark you in a way that is fair, because they know the specific challenges that your sector may be facing. And we've also added a question about the sector this year. So all entries should be anonymous, and there is some guidance on this that I will refer to later. So looking at the first part, we also ask for gender metrics. So this is a breakdown of the gender profile across the organization at different levels. And we also ask about managers and new executive committee and board. And there is a question in the question set around women at the top. And we will be using this information in that case to look at how many women you've got in your board, etc. So this section is mandatory, and I would like to underline the fact that it will remain strictly confidential to business in the community. So we will not be sharing this information at all. It will just be used for context. And it will not be scored directly, but could be referred to during assessment, as I've just mentioned. And the reporting period should be the organization's last financial year, or the 12 months prior to September of the current year, so this year. Moving on to the section 2, which I think is probably the bulk in the application. So this section asks you for information on what your organization is doing to tackle gender inequality and promote gender equality, if you wanted to put it in a more positive way. So we are asking about all sorts of themes, such as your strategy, how you are supporting parents and carers, your wider reach, your workplace culture, how you are addressing inappropriate behavior, and how are your leaders involved in this. So we're really trying to get at how do you create a culture which promotes equality for women, and how successful are your activity.
That's probably fair to say it's the toughest part of the,
yes,
but it's also where you'll get the most benefit in terms of the gap analysis in your organisation.
Absolutely, and I would really like to stress that if you download the guidance, I will really want, if you remember one thing from today, is please have a look at the sub-questions. So the sub-question and the glossary. So this year we've added in the guidance notes a glossary on what we mean by intersectionality, or segregation, or gender equality, or gender balance even. So please do refer to these terms if you're not familiar with them. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to understand what we mean, and sort of we've tried as best as we could to get rid of the jargon so that the application form is simple. The other thing I wanted to stress is if you have a look at the guidance notes on page 14, and you can look at it later, you will have some sub-questions. For instance, the big question around strategy is, please tell us about your current strategy, targets, and objectives. How do you ensure this is embedded throughout the whole organization? But then we've got some sub-questions, such as, do you profile internal example of the business benefits of a gender balanced workforce? Or do you appoint diversity managers or task force who monitor talent? So all of these sub-questions, please try your best to answer them, because they are linked to our scoring criteria. And the more you can answer those questions and demonstrate impact, the better your chances to make the list. So they are here to help you, but I would say they're not optional. So really try your best to answer them. It's very unlikely that you will be able to answer them all, or provide some evidence of impact for them, but do use them as a sort of guidance for this. So moving on to the case study, this is about a specific activity or initiative which demonstrates the work that your organization is doing. And we are looking, for example, of innovation, and this section accounts for 25% of the final score. And we will, as I said, really try to recognize those organizations who are doing well in this sphere, and we will have up to 10 Game Changer Awards this year. So a really good opportunity to showcase something you've been doing that has been impactful. And finally, section 4 is the one that is optional, and it's a separate assessment, and that will not count towards your final score for the Times Top 50 listing, but it's a good opportunity to nominate a senior level individual.
Great, thanks, Chloe. So one of the questions we often get asked about is confidentiality. So if I could just take a closer look at that again. Section 1, as Chloe said, which is your data and your metrics. This is totally confidential. This is what we use for assessment purposes only. Question 2, which is the question set and the assessment content, we're not going to reproduce this in the public domain, but we may on occasion share best practice from this section. So the Times will be developing the supplement content, and they may well wish to use some of the background information in this for the supplement. If this is the case, then you will be contacted in advance if they wish to develop a case study based on your organisation. For example, if BITC identifies a best practice example on shared parental leave, we'll advise the Times, and they may then wish to follow up with you on that particular issue. Sections 3 and 4, the case studies and the nominations. Now, this is important because the content submitted in these sections does have to be approved by you internally as ready for publication. This is what we may publish in part or in its entirety in the public domain. And as we said, we're very keen to use the case studies that you provide us as much as possible. So you should make sure that this is actually ready to be published as it is submitted. We also reserve the right to edit these case studies simply for the purposes of word count and consistency without prior approval, but obviously we won't change them substantively. Now, there's plenty of guidance and support. We want you to submit the best entry that you can, and therefore we've provided you with detailed guidance on the website. There's an information and guidance document, which Chloe's already referred to, which is available now for you to download from the website. And all the information in this document will also be replicated in the online entry platform. So you should have all the guidance you need at your fingertips as you're working on your entry. As a starting point, have a look at this information. In addition to what we're covering today in terms of structure and the format of the entry process, it also contains some overall general guidance points, which Chloe's already talked about and read some to you. And it includes the detailed question breakdown so that you can help focus on each individual answer and make sure that you provide as full a description of your activities as possible. Our diversity advisors are also on hand to answer any questions that you might have. So if you're currently working with a diversity advisor as a partner, then just feel free to give them a ring or email them. Alternatively, you can email timestop50@bitc.org.uk and we'll put you in touch with a member of the team that best fits your inquiry. If you'd like past examples, as we said, the winning and shortlisted case studies from last year's awards are available on the website now, so I would urge you to have a look at those because they're really helpful. And you can find out more by downloading the entry documents and the guidance from the website. Now, here's a list of things not to forget, just to recap some of the things we've already talked about. First of all, it's the women that we're interested in. So don't forget the women. We appreciate that your activities might have a broader diversity reach, which is relevant to tell us about, and that's absolutely great. But for the purposes of this entry, don't forget that what we need to understand is how your activities relate to and impact on women specifically. So apply the gender lens to all the initiatives and the programs in your entry. As Chloe said, we also want to look at UK activity. The list recognises employers in the UK. We have plenty of global employers applying, but it is their activity in the UK that we're interested in. So please ensure that the information you provide is particularly relevant to activity and achievements within this region. We appreciate that the programmes and initiatives will have a broader reach, and that's appropriate to cover in the entry, but just make sure where possible you provide the UK data, in particular when you're providing evidence of impact in the UK. Unfortunately, if the information is not UK-based or it's not made clear that it's from the UK, it might affect your score on that question, so bear that in mind. When it comes to the case study in section 3, we'll ask you to give further information about which region the work covers, if that's relevant. Don't forget to consult with colleagues. As Chloe said, there is a Word document, a version of the entry form that you can download, and that's really useful when you want to discuss with other colleagues who can contribute information which would strengthen your entry. So do pass that around other departments such as HR, talent management, women's networks, training, PR departments to make sure that you get the fullest possible picture of what's going on in the organisation. You need to remember that the entry is anonymous. Most obviously don't use the organisation's name, but also remember that to avoid references that would easily identify it. For example, if you've got high-profile individuals, don't use their names, particularly if they're very senior. Similarly, if you've established programmes that will be recognised by others working in the diversity sphere, don't use those programmes' names. However, given the assessor will not know who you are, it's worth thinking about what would be useful for the assessors to understand about the context of the point you're making. So in terms of your organisation's description, for example, you might want to convey the scale of your organisation, whether there are particular challenges associated with your sector, for example. Think about the information that would be useful for an assessor to understand about the landscape from which your organisation specifically operates. Is it in a male-dominated sector, for instance? Try and highlight the contextual information that will help the assessor to appreciate your particular approach on these issues. Next one is use plain English. As Chloe said, we've tried to reduce the jargon on the entry form. It would be great if you could try and do the same in your entries. So don't use acronyms or terminology that someone outside of your organisation wouldn't be familiar with. It's a basic point, but check the formatting. Before you submit your entry, check that your content will be easy for the assessors to read. Having done the assessment, I know this makes a big difference. I think it will be particularly pertinent if you're going to paste large pieces of text onto the platform from other documents. Just check that the paragraph spacing hasn't been lost, particularly when you have longer answers, such as in the case study questions. If all of the information is bunched into one long paragraph of dense text, believe me, it's much harder for the assessor to plough through it. You might find it useful to put bullet points, which would also help with the word count and convey the information more clearly and concisely. We cannot accept supporting materials. You're going to be assessed entirely on the text responses on your entry form. Supporting materials are not required at this stage, so please don't send us additional materials or use hyperlinks because we won't be able to use them.
And just to say, Judith, that this is the same for the case study. Yeah. So you will be able to tell us about what you're doing in the entry form for the case study, but we wouldn't be able to accept any kind of external documents.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the last point is it's worth noting that we're not expecting a perfect score. Nobody's perfect. The questions are thorough because we want to ensure that the process is robust and credible and that it's competitive. But if you find some of the questions challenging, remember that no one is going to be doing everything perfectly and everyone will have strengths and weaknesses. We aren't expecting everyone to have impact against all of the questions where there's an option for you to provide that. So don't worry. Just provide impact where you can and as much as you can. And don't forget that you might have an average score for one question or section, but you might do brilliantly in another. So don't let a difficult question put you off. Keep going.
Absolutely. And just to add to this, that when we talk about the women, it's very important that you consider how your activity is impacting on all groups of women. Yeah. And for those of you who have been familiar with the work that Business in the Community has done around intersectionality, and especially with the exhibition Same But Different, what we were trying to get out is that certain groups of women will face additional challenges. So, for instance, we know that Black women tend to earn less than white women. And so I think it's very important to show us how you are trying to support the women who need it most as well, and not just consider all women as one group. And this is really something that I would really love to see more in this year's application. So definitely think about the women. We know that obviously your activity can also benefit women if it benefits men, so around shared parental leave, for instance, and how that can reduce, that can equalize, childcare and allow women to be more involved in the workplace. So we will definitely take this into account. We also know that when men are more involved around flexible working and etc., that really helps women as well. So we really want you to keep that in mind as well.
Great. Okay, so just a few key dates for you to be aware of here on the next slide. And obviously the most important one is the next one, which is the closing date of the 22nd of November. Entry is going to be via the online entry platform, which is available right now. This slide is what you will see when you log in. So in order to access the platform, you'll need a username and a password, which you can obtain by emailing timestop50@bitc.org.uk. Now, there are several benefits for entrants in using this online platform. It displays your word count, which is pretty important as you go through, so you can keep track of it as you complete it, and it will alert you if you go over the word count. Also, you can share the login details with other colleagues. So we said you could print off the Word document if you wanted to get input from around the organisation. You can also allow other colleagues to contribute to the entry online. It's possible for multiple people to be logged in at the same time. But do remember, it's probably worthwhile being clear about which sections or questions contributors are working on. You don't want people sort of overwriting other people's contributions. You can save your updates as you progress, and you can come back to your submission at a later date. So do remember to save the content before you leave the page you're on, otherwise you might lose it. And you can download a PDF of your responses to save or circulate at any stage. Finally, if you've entered in previous years, you can also find a record of your earlier submission.
Just to add, Judith, that if they prefer to do it on the Word document, it's also possible the blank entry form, but it might be easier to do it online for the reasons you mentioned.
Yeah, but you do have to enter online, so we will only accept entries online. I've just brought up here some of the frequently asked questions we have. I'm not going to go through each of these questions individually. But don't hesitate to get in touch if there are any questions you're still not sure of when you come to complete your entry, and all of the FAQs here are provided in a supporting documentation which you can access via our website. So just to recap, how do you enter? Request the username and the password from timestop50@bitc.org.uk. Download the information and guidance notes from the gender campaign section on the BOT website, as well as the blank entry form if you want to use one of those. And remember that you must submit your application online. So the Word document's just for your internal use, but it is a really good way of allowing everybody else to contribute.
So that brings us to the end of the webinar. So thanks everyone for participating. We hope you found it useful. If you have any other questions, you can speak to your diversity advisor if you're a partner of the Gender Equality Campaign, or you can contact timestop50@bitc.org.uk and we will point you in the right direction. We look forward to reading your submissions. Don't forget that the deadline is at 5 p.m. on the 22nd of November this year, and we really look forward to it. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So now we're going to take questions if you want. If you have any questions, so we're going to wait for questions. We've been trying to address some of the questions as we were going through or responding to you online, but please do send us any questions you have. So is there anything different that BATC is looking for this year versus other years? So I would say we're always looking for the best. It's very important to always put the focus on the system and not the women. So with our research report, Project 28 to 40, which we published 3 years ago, what we've really found is that it's not women who need to be fixed, it's the system that needs fixing. Women are confident and ambitious, and actually women don't really value mentoring program or all these kind of programs aimed at fixing the women. So I would say really focus on the system. I would say really try to show how your strategy, data monitoring activities are supporting all groups of women, because we know some women are facing what we call double disadvantage, and that's really what I meant by the term intersectionality, which means that your gender may intersect with your race or with your social background and make it even more difficult for you. So I think if you can show that all women are benefiting from your programs, that would be really useful, and also show that you are paying attention to this in the way you are looking at your engagement score, for instance, or your gender pay gap. Are you calculating it by gender pay gap by gender and age, for instance? So really, I think that's really what we're looking for. So can you have copies of the slide? Yes, definitely. We will also put this on YouTube, so it will be possible for you to have them. I'm just reading the questions. So, do case studies have to be completed? And I think by this you mean have to be done by the time you submit the application. Ideally, we would like this because that shows that you can demonstrate impact if it has been done. However, if you are already seeing results and you are hopeful that there will be even greater results by continuing this initiative, I would say definitely use it, but we will be assessing on evidence, both qualitative and quantitative, competitive. So you want to demonstrate that it's already working if you do this.
Yeah, I think providing evidence of impact is absolutely key, and for me particularly, if you can provide some quantitative evidence of your impact, so using a kind of a baseline data and then showing how that's changed over the period that you've already been running your initiative, that would be really, really helpful for us.
So then we had a question about additional benefits listed in relation to using the Times Top 50 logo. Would this be an additional cost? I believe so. We will get back to you on this, but the additional benefits, such as paying for advertisement, would be an additional cost. It's not included in the £1,250, which is just the use of the logo.
Yeah, and the full details on the...
And the full details are online. You can download it. So online we've got 3 documents you can download: the guidance, the entry blank form, and there is also some guidance around the prices for the logo, etc. So we had a really interesting question. Will you consider the answer to one question in other questions, or will I need to repeat the information provided? And I would say repeat the information provided, definitely, because the case study in particular will be assessed separately from the overall application. And it's very important that you do repeat the information. Do not assume that our team of experts would be looking for other questions or other answers you've provided to answer that question. So please do repeat the information wherever it's needed. Do send us your questions if you have any more questions. So in terms of the timeframes for the section 1, organizational context and metrics, the time frame that we gave was the last organization's financial year or the 12 months prior to September of the current year. And this is in the guidance notes as well. So if you do, so we have the question, who do we send additional questions to if we don't have a BITC membership? We are determined to help everyone, absolutely, not just BITC partners. This Times Top 50 list is open to all employers in the UK. So we will do our best to answer your questions, and you can email timestop50@bitc.org.uk. All right, this is your last chance for questions. So if you have any more questions, do send them now, or we'll bring this webinar to an end. All right, so
Okay.
Judith, I think we're gonna end it here. We are here to help you, so don't worry if you still have questions, we can answer them. And thank you so much for spending your Wednesday afternoon with us. We are going to let you go on with your day, and we look forward to reading your applications.